Why does Mina always get everything? Why does he always get all the good things? I have been trying to get Sofia Romanos. I went on a date with Sofia dressed as Mina. And she didn't notice! I loved the way she touched my hair. Gosh, I hate that girl. Why does everything always go to her? I will make sure she disappears. I need to do something about it. Got her easily. You watch, Mina. I will get everything from you. Sofia is mine! Why?
Okay guys, before we jump into part 2, let me give you a quick recap because you're probably wondering, who is this crazy girl? Yep, that's Maya, the jealous twin sister who decided that if life wasn't going her way, she'd simply steal her sister's identity and steal the woman she loved. The only tiny problem? That woman just happened to be Sofia Romano, the most powerful and dangerous mafia queen on the coast. Now, if you haven't watched part 1 yet, you seriously need to go back and watch it first. Trust me, everything will make so much more sense and you definitely don't want to miss all the chaos that got us here. So, do you guys remember when Maya secretly stole Mina's clothes, replied to Sofia's messages from the tablet, deleted all the evidence, and then went on a date with Sofia while pretending to be her own sister? Yeah, that's exactly where we're picking up today's story. But before we continue, if you're enjoying this crazy, messy GL drama, don't forget to subscribe. I promise you, you are not going to regret it, my loves. We have so many shocking twists coming, and this story only gets crazier from here. Thank you so much for being here. Now, let's continue our story. Once a boundary is crossed, the second time is never a choice, it is a slide. Maya lay awake for 3 days straight, her eyes fixed on the ceiling while the quiet apartment breathed around her. Every time she closed her eyes, she didn't see the gold or the marble of her father's mansion. She felt the heavy, textured weight of that brown paper bag in her hands. She tasted the rich, dark chocolate cake. She heard Sofia's low voice saying always like it was a sacred vow. She kept telling herself she was going to confess to Mina. She even stood outside Mina's bedroom door on Thursday morning, her hand raised to knock, her throat tight with the words. But then Mina opened the door, flashing that bright, radiant smile, completely untroubled by the world, and Maya's hand fell back to her side. The truth stayed trapped in her throat, rotting into something dark. The next week passed quietly. Mina and Sofia still met whenever their schedules allowed. Coffee after class, a walk through the botanical gardens, an afternoon wandering through the old Riverside book market from Sofia's handwritten list. Everything felt easy, natural. Exactly the kind of love neither of them had expected to find. Meanwhile, Maya tried very hard to stay out of it. She truly did. Whenever Mina came home smiling after seeing Sofia, Maya smiled too. Whenever Mina excitedly talked about another date, Maya listened. She even teased her. So, when's the wedding? Mina threw a pillow at her. We've been dating for like a month. I'm just planning ahead. They laughed together. For a moment, everything felt normal again. Until Thursday evening. Mina was halfway through her shift when her manager rushed over. Mina, she turned. What happened? The supplier's truck broke down. So I need you to help unload another delivery across town. Mina looked at the clock. 6:15. Her dinner with Sofia was at 7. She sighed. I'll message her. She reached into her apron, empty. My phone. She'd left it charging in the staff room. I'll grab it. Please hurry, her manager pleaded. Mina nodded and rushed toward the back. At the apartment, Maya was folding laundry when Mina's tablet lit up on the coffee table. It was connected to the same messaging account as her phone. A notification appeared. Sofia, I'm already at the restaurant. Maya stared at the screen. No, she whispered. Again? She looked toward the window. The sky was beginning to darken. She imagined Sofia sitting alone, waiting. The same image from last week replayed in her mind. She picked up the tablet. No. She put it back down, walked away, made it halfway to the kitchen, stopped, turned around. Just tell her. She unlocked the tablet. Her fingers shook. Traffic is terrible. I'll be a little late. She stared at the message, then hit send. Sofia replied almost instantly. Take your time. I'll wait. Maya closed her eyes. I should stop. Instead, she walked upstairs. Opened Mina's wardrobe. Her eyes landed on the pale blue dress Mina had worn once before. She reached toward it, stopped, pulled her hand back. This is wrong. Then, almost without thinking, she picked it up anyway. Half an hour later, the restaurant hostess smiled warmly. Miss Romano has been waiting for you. Maya nodded. Thank you. As she walked through the elegant dining room, Sofia stood the moment she saw her. "You made it. I'm sorry, don't be. I know how unpredictable work can be." Maya smiled weakly. "You always understand." Sofia pulled out her chair. "I try." Dinner began quietly. The waiter poured wine. Maya reached for the menu. "So?" Sofia smiled. "You've looked at it 3 times. I have." "You always order the same pasta." Maya laughed nervously. "I thought I'd try something different. You surprise me every week." She said it affectionately, not suspiciously. Maya relaxed a little. Maybe she could do this. Halfway through dinner, the waiter arrived carrying a small velvet box. He smiled politely. "Your reservation included this item, Miss Romano." Sofia looked confused. "I don't remember ordering that." The waiter opened the box. Inside sat a delicate silver bracelet. Simple, elegant, nothing extravagant, Sofia smiled. "I did order this." She looked at Maya. "I saw it a few days ago. I remembered you stopping to admire something similar in a shop window." Maya's heart skipped. She hadn't. Mina had. The bracelet wasn't meant for her. She didn't know what to say. "You don't have to. I wanted to." Maya slowly accepted it. A knot tightened in her stomach. Every act of kindness felt heavier now. As Sofia fastened the bracelet around Maya's wrist, she noticed something. Usually, whenever she got this close, Mina became shy. She looked away, her cheeks turned pink. Tonight, Mina met her eyes confidently, almost flirtatiously. For a brief moment, something didn't feel right. Just for a second, then she remembered what Marco had once joked about. People get bolder when they're comfortable. Sofia smiled to herself. Maybe that was all this was. Trust. Back at the cafe, Mina finally found her phone. 32 missed notifications. She frowned. "What?" Then her manager called from outside. "Mina, we need you." She shoved the phone into her pocket without checking it. "I'll look later." That night, Mina returned home exhausted. She found Maya reading on the sofa. Tough day. The worst. Maya smiled. "It'll get better. I hope so." Mina picked up her phone. "Oh," Sofia texted. She opened the conversation. She frowned. "That's weird." "What?" "It says I told her I was running late." Maya's heart stopped. Then Mina laughed. "Oh, I must have typed that while rushing." She shrugged and kept reading. No suspicion, none at all. Maya quietly released the breath she'd been holding. The next opportunity didn't require planning. It simply fell into Maya's lap. It was a cold Tuesday afternoon. Mina had an intense 3-hour practical exam at the university darkroom, a strict lock-in session where students weren't allowed to carry electronics inside to protect the light-sensitive film development. Naturally, her phone was left behind on the kitchen counter, plugged into its white charging cord. At exactly 4:15 p.m., the screen flickered to life. "Sofia, the wind is turning bitter by the river. I am stepping out of a meeting early. Come walk with me for 10 minutes by the campus bridge." Maya was sitting at the dining table, a textbook open in front of her. She didn't hesitate this time. There was no long, agonizing internal debate. The hunger inside her had grown too loud. She picked up the device, her thumb sliding across the glass with total familiarity. She typed a response, making sure to keep the text short, simple, and relaxed. "Mina, I'll be there in 5 minutes, Val." She hit send, swiftly cleared the message from the screen log, and moved like a shadow into Mina's bedroom. She didn't look at her own wardrobe. She pulled out Mina's favorite, slightly oversized cream-colored hoodie and a pair of ordinary denim jeans. She stood before the mirror, taking a damp cloth to scrub every trace of designer cosmetics from her skin until her face was bare, pale, and raw. She pulled her hair back into that loose, unbothered ponytail. When she stepped out onto the misty campus bridge, the air was freezing. The gray fog rolled off the river, blurring the outlines of the distant buildings. The sleek black sports car was already idling quietly by the curb. The heavy door clicked open, and Sofia Romano stepped out into the chill. She wore a sharp, tailored charcoal gray trench coat, her dark hair swept neatly over one shoulder. The exact second her icy, lethal gaze landed on Maya, the entire terrifying aura of the Mafia queen completely vanished, replaced by an expression of pure, melting adoration. Maya's heart did a violent, frantic thud against her ribs, but she forced her shoulders to drop. She stepped into the space, putting on that soft, gentle smile. "Hey, Val," Maya murmured. Sofia didn't say a word. She simply stepped forward, wrapping her long, warm arms firmly around Maya's waist and pulling her flush against her chest. She buried her face in the crook of Maya's neck, inhaling deeply, her breath a warm, comforting contrast against the freezing wind. "I missed you today," Sofia whispered, her voice laced with a raw, romantic vulnerability that made Maya's lungs seize. "Even a few hours without you feels like a lifetime, Mina." Maya's entire body went rigid for a split second inside the embrace. The real Mina would have immediately melted, wrapping her arms tightly around Sofia's neck. But Maya's eyes remained wide open. She was staring right over Sofia's shoulder at the multi-million-dollar vehicle, a cold, greedy rush of adrenaline flooding her veins. Sofia pulled back slightly, her sharp eyes studying Maya's face in the dim twilight. She noticed the tension. "You're a bit quieter today, my love." Maya quickly lowered her gaze, rubbing her temples to mimic exhaustion. "Oh, I'm just incredibly tired from midterms, Val. My brain is completely fried." Deep concern instantly washed over Sofia's features. She raised her elegant hand, gently cupping Maya's cheek, her thumb tracing her jawline with a tenderness that could make anyone weep. "Then I won't keep you out in the cold. Let's just sit in the car where it's warm, okay? Your health matters more to me than anything else in this world." For the next 20 minutes, Maya sat in the passenger seat, drowning in the luxury of Sofia's world. Sofia did all the talking, her low, velvet voice speaking softly about a rare vintage camera she had tracked down for her, and how she wanted to take her away to a private villa next month, just so she could take photos in peace. Maya just sat there, nodding, smiling Mina's soft smile. She wasn't thinking about helping her sister anymore. She was realizing that she could look the most powerful woman in Europe right in the eyes, and the lie would work flawlessly. But a double life creates glitches in the matrix. And for Sofia, the contradictions were becoming entirely impossible to ignore. 2 days later, Sofia met the real Mina for a quick daytime coffee date on their usual weathered park bench. The sun was out, but the air was still crisp. Sofia reached into her pocket, pulling out a small velvet box and slid a delicate, custom-made silver bracelet onto Mina's wrist. "A little addition to your new collection," Sofia said softly, her eyes warm. Mina blinked, looking down at the beautiful, expensive jewelry, completely confused. She let out a light laugh. "New collection? Val, what do you mean? I don't have a collection." Sofia paused, her sharp eyes narrowing slightly. "The dresses, Mina. The ones we picked out at the boutique on Tuesday evening after our walk by the bridge." Mina's face went entirely blank. She shook her head, shrugging her shoulders with an amused smile. "Tuesday evening, Val. I was locked in the campus darkroom developing film until midnight on Tuesday. My phone was dead. We didn't see each other at all." Silence fell over the park bench. Sofia stared at her. She looked into Mina's eyes, searching for a sign of a joke, a tease, or a lie. But Mina's eyes were completely transparent, filled with nothing but genuine, innocent confusion. Mina didn't suspect a thing. She simply assumed a busy, powerful woman like Sofia, who ran an international empire, had temporarily mixed up her dates and her schedule. Sofia quietly lowered her gaze, forcing a smooth, reassuring smile. "Perhaps I'm remembering incorrectly. My timeline must be getting tangled with the shipping firms. My apologies, my girl." "You're working way too hard," Mina murmured, her face instantly filling with deep, sweet concern as she reached over and squeezed Sofia's manicured hand. "Promise me you'll get some sleep tonight?" "I promise," Sofia whispered. But as Sofia drove away that afternoon, her hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her mind was racing in dangerous circles. "Am I losing my mind?" Sofia thought, her hands trembling, a sight that would have horrified her enemies. "Is she playing a game with me? One day she's fearless and flirty, and the next day she doesn't even remember the restaurant we sat in. Why does she look at me like she's seeing a stranger?" The differences between the two versions of the girl were striking. Sometimes Mina would blush furiously just from holding hands in public. Other times she would confidently walk right up to Sofia, hook a bold finger under her collar, and pull her in for a flirty whisper. Sometimes she refused every expensive gift offered. Other times she asked questions about exclusive luxury brands and accepted high-end dinners without a thought. Sofia didn't tell Mina about her growing confusion. She loved her too much, and she didn't want to frighten her or make her feel defective. She sat heavily on the edge of her mattress, staring at her phone. I am the richest woman in Europe, and I am sitting here calling a doctor over the woman I love," she muttered to the empty room, a bitter, stressed chuckle escaping her lips. "Anything for you, Mina. Absolutely anything." She took a deep breath, dialed a highly private number, and pressed the phone to her ear. "Hello, doctor," Sofia murmured, her voice dropping into its cold, authoritative tone. "I need your help. Immediately." On the other end of the line, the doctor's breath hitched. He knew exactly who was calling. "Miss Sofia, do you need me urgently? I can pack my things and fly over right now so we can talk in person." "Do it," Sofia commanded. "My private jet is already cleared at the tarmac. Be here in an hour." The doctor arrived under the cover of the night, escorted by 4 of Sofia's heavily armed guards. One of the auxiliary buildings on Sofia's massive estate had been completely converted into a state-of-the-art private hospital, a pristine facility meant only for her and her highest-ranking inner circle. Sofia walked down the gleaming white corridor, the doctor rushing to keep pace with her long, aggressive strides. As they pushed open the doors to her private consultation room, Sofia's mind suddenly drifted away from the medical problem. Her eyes softened as she thought about the girl in the thrift store hoodies. My girlfriend, Sofia thought before catching her own internal monologue. Wait, she's not even my girlfriend yet. I haven't even officially asked her out. I need to plan something unforgettable. A beautiful private dinner. Something breathtaking and expensive. I want to give her the world, but first, I have to fix whatever is breaking her. Sofia turned sharply to face the doctor, her expression turning into iron. Thank you for coming, Sofia said, gesturing for him to sit across from her. I brought you here because I am deeply concerned. The woman I am seeing, she is exhibiting a completely split behavior. The psychiatrist adjusted his glasses, looking at the feared Mafia queen with absolute focus. Split behavior, Miss Sofia? Can you explain the symptoms? One day she is incredibly shy, reserved, and refuses any luxury I offer, Sofia murmured, her voice carrying a rare raw ache. Another day she is completely fearless, flirty, and perfectly familiar with status. Sometimes she remembers every detail of our conversations. Other times, it's like the conversation never happened. It's like I am dating two completely different people sharing the same body. The psychiatrist listened carefully, taking slow, precise notes. He tapped his pen against the desk, processing the information. From what you're describing, Miss Sophia, I wouldn't jump to any dangerous psychiatric conclusions, the doctor said, his tone cautious, steady, and thoroughly professional. People under prolonged, extreme stress can behave entirely differently depending on their immediate environment and who they're trying to please. Sophia's eyes narrowed. Stress? Think about it, the doctor explained calmly. She is balancing a demanding university load, a part-time job, severe financial pressure, and an emotional vulnerability with someone as incredibly powerful and intimidating as you. That kind of pressure can cause a striking contrast in a person's daily personality, unless she is experiencing dangerous symptoms, such as major blackouts, losing large chunks of her day, or becoming a danger to herself. I wouldn't assume a psychiatric disorder. Be patient with her. Support her. Observe. If the symptoms become more severe, bring her to me and I'll evaluate her personally. Sofia left the private building feeling an immense wave of relief wash over her chest. The heavy, suffocating panic rolled off her shoulders as she stepped back out into the cool night air. She's under too much pressure, Sofia thought, a deep, fierce wave of devotion flooding her heart. She's trying so hard to fit into my dangerous world that it's fracturing her energy. I need to protect her. I need to make her life easier. Based on what you told me, the doctor smiled. I think she needs patience, not suspicion. Sofia sat quietly for several seconds, then nodded once. I understand. As Sofia left the office, she looked at the photograph on her phone, a candid picture she'd secretly taken of Mina laughing while trying to teach her how to chop onions. A smile slowly appeared on Sofia's face. I'll be patient, she whispered it to herself, not because the doctor had ordered her to, because she wanted to be. That afternoon, instead of returning straight to headquarters, Sofia asked her driver to make one stop, the cafe. Yes, madam. The lunch rush had just begun. Through the front window, Sofia watched quietly from inside the car. Mina moved from table to table carrying trays, clearing dishes, taking orders, and apologizing to impatient customers with the same warm smile. One elderly customer accidentally knocked over an entire cup of coffee. I'm so sorry, Mina laughed. It's okay. I'll clean it up. Another customer complained their food was taking too long. Instead of arguing, Mina apologized again. She even offered them a free dessert. Sofia noticed something else. Whenever nobody was looking, Mina quietly rubbed her sore wrist, then smiled again before walking back onto the cafe floor. Marco, sitting beside Sofia, followed her gaze. You've been watching for almost 20 minutes. I know. Should I go inside? No. Then? Sofia spoke without taking her eyes off Mina. Find out who owns this cafe. 3 days later, Marco placed a folder on Sofia's desk. It's a family-owned business. They've been struggling for almost 2 years. The owner was considering selling. Sofia opened the file. Buy 30%? Marco blinked. 30? Enough to keep them open, but not enough to interfere. No one is to know I'm involved. Especially Mina. Marco smiled. I understand. As he turned to leave, Sofia added quietly, if the staff need new equipment, approve it. If wages can be improved, do it. If advertising will help, do that too. Marco couldn't help smiling. You've changed. Sofia looked out across the city skyline. Maybe. Meanwhile, Maya stood in front of her bedroom mirror. She picked up one of Mina's cardigans, held it against herself, then put it back. She brushed her hair the way Mina did. Stopped. Undid it. Then tried again. It was ridiculous. She wasn't trying to become Mina, she simply wondered what Sofia saw when she looked at her sister. She smiled. No. Too wide. She tried again. Smaller, gentler, closer again. Finally, she looked into the mirror and froze. For one brief second, she didn't see Maya staring back. She saw Mina. The realization sent a chill through her. She quickly looked away. What am I doing? Later that evening, Mina burst through the apartment door grinning from ear to ear. Maya, you won't believe today. What happened? The cafe owner just announced we're getting new equipment. No way. And everyone's getting a raise. Maya smiled. That's amazing. I know. The owner said some investor came in out of nowhere. Mina laughed. Can you believe our luck? Maya laughed with her. Neither sister noticed the black sedan parked quietly across the street. Inside, Sofia watched Mina celebrate with the people she loved. She smiled to herself. She didn't need thanks. Seeing Mina happy was enough. Upstairs, after Mina had gone to bed, Maya stood alone in front of the bathroom mirror. She smiled again, this time without thinking. It was Mina's smile. She stared at her own reflection for a long time, then whispered almost fearfully, I'm getting better. For the first time. Those words didn't sound like a joke. They sounded like a promise. Once you let a monster into your mind, you don't control it anymore. It controls you. Months had passed, and the freezing winter cold had completely locked the city in ice. But inside the luxury penthouse, a much more terrifying transformation was taking place. Maya wasn't just stealing text messages anymore. The guilt that used to make her hands shake, gone. The promises she made to herself in the dark, completely forgotten. The double life had become a daily routine, a structured, addictive hunt. The exact second Mina left for a university lecture or a shift at the cafe, Maya would move into her twin's bedroom like a ghost reclaiming a body. But it wasn't a game of curiosity anymore. It was pure, unadulterated obsession. Maya didn't just borrow Mina's old hoodies. No, girl, she started going out and buying duplicates of everything Mina owned. She bought the exact same simple canvas sneakers. She tracked down the cheap, basic vanilla perfume Mina always wore and sprayed it over her skin until she was practically drowning in her sister's scent. She bought the exact same shade of nude lipstick. She sat at her desk for hours under a single lamp, surrounded by loose sheets of paper, practicing. She practiced Mina's handwriting, copying the slight slant of her letters until you couldn't tell the difference. She stood in front of the full-length mirror, staring into her own wide, unblinking eyes, practicing Mina's soft, breathless laugh. She would smile, stop, let her shoulders drop to copy Mina's relaxed posture and smile again, over and over, until her face ached, until she perfectly cloned her twin's radiant, innocent warmth. It was creepy, it was completely insane. But the most terrifying part, Maya started answering to Mina inside her own head. When she walked down the street and heard someone shout her sister's name, her heart would jump. When she looked in the mirror, the image of Maya, the spoiled, insecure girl raised by a cold, wealthy father, was completely gone. She had erased herself. She had buried her own identity alive just to become the woman Sofia Romano loved. Instead of looking at the ring on Mina's nightstand and saying, "This is wrong," Maya would just touch her own lips, trace her identical reflection in the glass, and whisper with a chilling, slow smirk, "She'll never know. I deserve this life." Meanwhile, completely oblivious to the monster growing under her own roof, the real Mina was falling deeper in love with Sofia. Every single quiet date they shared on their weathered park bench felt like an anchor for Mina's soul. Sofia kept supporting the campus cafe from the shadows, ensuring the business remained incredibly successful. Mina truly believed the universe had simply decided to be kind to her. She was less stressed, and she had more time to focus on her photography. "Look at this, Val," Mina said one afternoon, leaning her head against Sofia's shoulder as they sat in the back of the heated sedan. She handed Sofia a freshly developed black and white print. It was a candid photo of Sofia. She was looking out the window of a coffee shop, the winter light perfectly catching the sharp, elegant lines of her jaw, but her eyes were incredibly soft, filled with a gentle warmth no one in the criminal underworld had ever seen. Sofia stared at the photograph, her chest tightening with an emotion so fierce it almost made her dizzy. "When did you take this?" "Last week," Mina smiled, her fingers lightly tracing the edge of the paper. "You were listening to me ramble about my childhood. You had this look on your face, like you were completely at peace. I wanted to capture it forever, because that's who you are to me, Val. You're my piece." Sofia slowly lowered the photo, her sharp, icy eyes locking onto Mina's face with an intensity that made the car feel entirely silent. She reached out, her long, warm fingers gently tucking a stray strand of hair behind Mina's left ear, her thumb lingering against her cheek. "I spent 31 years believing that peace was an illusion, Mina," Sofia whispered, her voice dropping into a deep, heavy register. "But every time I look at you, I realize I was wrong. You're the only thing in this world that makes me want to be human. Mina blushed furiously, leaning forward to press a soft, lingering kiss against Sofia's lips. Sofia held her tightly, closing her eyes, her mind completely consumed by a desperate, protective love. She's finally comfortable, Sofia thought, remembering the psychiatrist's words about stress. The mood swings are gone, the erratic behavior has stopped. She's stable now because I am protecting her. Sofia truly believed her silent devotion had healed Mina's stress. She had absolutely no idea that the fearless, bold version of Mina she had been seeing on alternate nights was actually an imposter lurking in the shadows of her own penthouse. But back at the apartment, the countdown to the explosion had officially begun. One evening, Mina left her camera bag on the dining table while she went to the bathroom. Maya walked into the kitchen, her eyes instantly locking onto the leather bag. She moved like a ghost, her fingers sliding into the side pocket until she pulled out a small, heavy velvet box. Maya's breath hitched. She opened it. Inside sat a flawless, custom-designed silver bracelet, glowing softly under the kitchen lights. Tucked beneath the jewelry was a tiny, handwritten note in Sofia's elegant gold ink. "For my universe. To match the ring I will hand you soon. Sofia." The word ring screamed inside Maya's head like a siren. Her fingers tightened around the velvet box until the hinges groaned. Her face went entirely pale, her eyes widening into a pitch black abyss of pure, suffocating madness. A ring, Maya thought, a cold, violent tremor running down her spine. She's going to propose to her, she's going to make her a queen, and once the wedding happens, we'll be locked out of her world forever. I will go back to being nothing. The lines had been blurred for months, but now, the reality of the situation hit Maya like a physical blow. She couldn't just play the double life anymore. The spaces were closing up. She carefully slipped the velvet box back into the camera bag, her jaw clenching so hard it ached. She turned toward her bedroom, her eyes burning with a dark, calculated focus. The time for small lies was officially over. If she wanted the fairy tale, she was going to have to steal the entire ending. The path to forever is never smooth, especially when one of the women walking it holds the reins of the underworld. It was an ordinary Thursday afternoon when the first major fracture in Mina and Sofia's quiet world appeared. Sofia had arranged for her driver to pick Mina up from campus and bring her to her private estate for the very first time. Mina had been looking forward to it all morning, clutching her camera bag, expecting a quiet evening of coffee and conversation. But when she walked into the grand marble foyer of Sofia's mansion, the air felt strangely heavy. The security guards at the door were standing at absolute attention, their faces pale. From behind the heavy mahogany doors of Sofia's private study, muffled, terrifying voices cut through the silence. Mina stopped in her tracks. Her curiosity got the better of her. She stepped lightly across the plush rugs, leaning slightly toward the gap in the double doors. "I don't care what syndicate they belong to," Sofia's voice boomed through the wood. It wasn't the soft, velvet hum Mina was used to. It was a freezing, lethal blade. "If they disrupt my shipping lines again, dismantle them, completely. I want their assets frozen by midnight, and if their leader resists, ensure he never walks the city again." A deep voice answered, shaking. "You understood, Miss Romano. It will be handled." Mina's heart stopped. The book she read, the rumors she ignored on campus, it all crashed down on her in a single, terrifying second. Sofia wasn't just a wealthy business executive. She was a ruler of the dark. The heavy doors suddenly swung open. A man in a sharp suit rushed out, nearly tripping over his own feet to escape. Right behind him stood Sofia, her dark hair immaculate, her eyes still blazing with cold fury. The moment her gaze landed on Mina standing in the hallway, Sofia froze. The color drained from her high cheekbones. "Mina," Sofia breathed, stepping forward, her hands instinctively reaching out. "How long have you been standing there?" Mina stepped back, her chest heaving, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and anger. "Who are you, Sofia? Dismantle them? Ensure he never walks again? What kind of business are you actually running?" Sofia looked at her, a raw, desperate panic flashing across her features of vulnerability she had never shown to a living soul. "Mina, please. Let me explain. I never wanted you to hear that. I didn't mean to hide the reality of my world from you, but I wanted to protect you from the shadows I carry. Protect me by lying to me." Mina snapped, her voice shaking with fierce independence. "I don't care how powerful you are, Sofia. I treat people with respect, and I thought you did too. But you're hiding an entire empire from me." "Mina, look at me." Sofia stepped closer, her voice cracking with an intense, desperate plea. "I'm sorry. I am so deeply sorry. This life? It was forced on me since I was a child. But the woman sitting across from you at the noodle shop, the woman who listens to you talk about photography, that is the real me. Please, don't walk away from me because of the blood on my name." Mina stared at her for a long, painful minute. She could see the genuine, agonizing remorse in Sofia's eyes, but her pride was stung. "Take me home, Sofia. Right now I need to think." Sofia didn't argue. Her heart felt like it was being ripped out of her chest as she personally drove Mina back to the penthouse in a suffocating dead silence. The next evening, the penthouse was tense. Mina was locked in her bedroom, staring at her economics textbooks but completely unable to focus, her mind racing over Sofia's desperate apology. Maya was sitting on the couch, watching Mina's closed door. She had seen Mina come home upset. She had quietly snooped on Mina's phone while her sister was in the kitchen, reading the agonizing text messages Sofia had sent afterward. Sofia, please, Mina. Let me make it up to you. Let me take you out tonight. I want to show you that my heart belongs entirely to you, regardless of my name. Maya's eyes darkened with a sudden, wicked brilliance. Mina was too angry to reply, but Sofia didn't know that. Maya moved fast. She ran into her room, scrubbing her face clean, tying her hair back into Mina's signature loose ponytail, and throwing on a simple emerald green top that Mina frequently wore. She grabbed Mina's phone and typed back. Mina, fine. Pick me up by the river docks at 8, just you. At exactly 8 o'clock, Sofia's sports car pulled up by the dark, misty riverbank. Sofia stepped out, her expression anxious, her shoulders tense with dread. She thought she was about to face a cold, angry woman. Instead, Maya stepped out of the shadows, putting on Mina's face, but injecting it with a sudden, intoxicating wave of confidence. Hey, Val, Maya murmured, her voice a perfect clone of her sister's pitch. Sofia rushed forward, her hands trembling as she took Maya's face in her palms. Mina, I've been a mess all day. I thought I lost you. Can you ever forgive me? Maya didn't put on Mina's shy, blushing act. She smirked, a bold, dangerous glint in her eyes. I'm still here, aren't I? Maybe I like a woman who knows how to control the world. Sofia's breath hitched. She was completely stunned by the sudden, fierce change in demeanor. She assumed the anger from yesterday had pushed Mina to finally drop her walls and accept the dark reality of her life. Before Sofia could even speak, Maya stepped directly into her space. She confidently hooked a bold finger under Sofia's silk collar, pulling the trillion-dollar Mafia queen down until their lips were inches apart. Show me how much you missed me, Val, Maya whispered against her mouth, her tone deeply flirty and completely fearless. Sofia completely lost control. The relief, the passion, and the raw desire exploded inside her chest. She wrapped her long, powerful arms tightly around Maya's waist, crushing her body against her own as she pulled her into an intense, incredibly breathless makeout scene right there by the dark river. It was heavy, deep, and beautifully messy. Maya wrapped her arms tightly around Sofia's neck, kissing her back with a hunger and a boldness that the real Mina had never possessed. Sofia's tongue glided against hers, her fingers digging into the fabric of Maya's shirt, pulling her closer and closer until they both forgot how to breathe under the dim yellow streetlights. Sofia pulled back for a split second, her gasps loud in the cool night air, her icy eyes completely melting as she stared down at the flushed face of the imposter. God, Mina. Sofia breathed, her voice dripping with pure, addictive worship. You are driving me completely insane. I've never felt you this close to me before. I told you, Val, Maya smirked, her thumb lightly tracing Sofia's bottom lip. I'm finally getting comfortable around you. I want to taste your world. Sofia's heart swelled with a massive euphoric rush of happiness. She's forgiven me, Sofia thought, her internal monologue filling with a desperate sense of relief. She's gotten better. The stress is completely gone, and she is finally ready to stand by my side. Sofia was so blinded by the romance and the makeup session that she didn't question a single thing. She wanted to pour the entire world at this girl's feet to thank her for staying. Let me spoil you tonight, Sofia murmured, kissing her forehead tenderly. Anything you want. It's yours. I saw a beautiful Chanel boutique open late in the financial district, Maya whispered, her eyes gleaming with greed as she leaned back against the sports car. Take me shopping, Val. Whatever my queen desires, Sofia smiled, completely wrapped around her finger. That night, Sofia took Maya on a wild, high-end shopping spree through the closed-door luxury district. Personal shoppers bowed as Sofia casually threw down her black credit cards, purchasing a rare multi-$1,000 designer leather handbag and matching silk scarves. Maya accepted the gifts with total, unapologetic grace, completely basking in the luxury lifestyle. When Maya finally snuck back into the penthouse late that night, she quietly hid the luxury Chanel bags in her locked trunk in the dark. She stood in front of her mirror, her lips still swollen and tingling from Sofia's intense, deep kisses. A wild, victorious surge of adrenaline rushed through her veins. She thinks I'm you, Mina, Maya whispered to the dark reflection, her slow, villainous smirk spreading across her lips as her eyes darkened with complete madness. She thinks you forgave her. She thinks you want her trillions. The romance is perfect, and it's mine. The problem with a double life is that the clock never stops ticking. The world keeps moving, and eventually the real people have to face the real feelings. 2 days had passed since Mina had walked away from Sofia's estate in tears. For 48 hours she had barely eaten, barely slept, and barely spoken to anyone. Her mind was a chaotic loop of Sofia's desperate face in the hallway, pleading with her not to walk away from the woman on the park bench just because of the blood on her name. Mina felt a heavy, suffocating weight in her chest. She hated lying, she hated running away, and deep down she realized she had already forgiven her. She didn't care about the international shipping lines or the politicians in Sofia's pocket. She cared about the woman who had knelt on a dusty bookstore floor just to look at black and white photographs with her. At exactly 5 p.m., Mina's phone buzzed on her desk. "Sofia, I sent a package to your apartment building's concierge. I'm hosting a private dinner tonight at the riverfront terrace. I miss you, Mina." Mina's heart pounded violently. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed her jacket, ran downstairs to the concierge desk, and signed for a sleek, heavy matte black box. When she opened it in her bedroom, her breath hitched. Resting inside the silk lining was a breathtaking evening dress. It wasn't loud or overly flashy, but it was pure elegance, midnight black, with a soft, flowing fabric that caught the light like liquid silk. Mina quickly got ready. She kept her makeup minimal and soft, tying a few strands of her hair back but letting the rest fall naturally over her shoulders, exposing the tiny single mole behind her left ear. She slipped into the black dress, looking at herself in the mirror. "I accept you," she whispered to her reflection, her voice steady and resolute. "Mafia and all, I love you, Val." She grabbed her small bag and headed out, completely unaware that Maya was watching from the slightly cracked door of the guest bathroom, her face twisted in a cold, venomous glare as she watched her twin leave the apartment. The riverfront terrace was completely closed to the public. Positioned at the very edge of the water, a single table was lit by the amber glow of candles, surrounded by towering glass walls that kept out the biting winter wind. Sofia was already standing near the edge of the glass, staring out at the dark, rippling water. She wore a sharp, dark velvet tuxedo jacket, her hands tucked into her pockets, her silhouette looking incredibly powerful yet profoundly lonely. When the security guard opened the terrace door, the click of Mina's heels cut through the quiet air. Sofia turned around sharply. The second her icy eyes locked onto Mina in the black dress, her entire body went rigid. The breath completely left her lungs. She stepped forward, her long, elegant strides eating up the distance between them until she was standing right in front of her. Without a single word, Sofia reached out, her powerful arms wrapping fiercely around Mina's waist, pulling her so close their chests slammed together. She buried her face deeply in Mina's neck, her grip so tight it was almost desperate. "Mina?" Sofia breathed, her voice carrying a raw, trembling weight that shattered the quiet room. Mina didn't pull away. She immediately melted into the embrace, her smaller arms wrapping tightly around Sofia's neck, her fingers burying into the dark, silky hair at the back of Sofia's head. She squeezed back with everything she had, inhaling the familiar, comforting scent of cedarwood and rich vanilla. "I don't care about the shadow over your name, Sofia. I accept you, I accept your world, and I love you." Sofia pulled back just an inch, her hands moving up to cup Mina's face with pure, unadulterated worship. Her thumbs lightly traced Mina's high cheekbones, her icy gaze completely melting as she looked into Mina's transparent, honest eyes. "You love me?" Sofia murmured, her voice laced with a breathless, euphoric wonder. "I love you, Val," Mina smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners with total sincerity. "Handouts, empires, and all." Sofia let out a soft, emotional laugh, the kind of pure, unrestrained sound she had never uttered in front of anyone else. She leaned down, her lips pressing against Mina's in a deeply romantic, tender, and profound kiss. It wasn't the bold, performative flirtation Maya had given her by the docks. It was a slow, heavy, soul-stirring connection that sealed their forgiveness. Sofia kissed her until they both had to pull back for air, her forehead resting gently against Mina's. "Then I swear to you, Mina," Sofia whispered, her grip on Mina's waist tightening with a fierce, absolute protectiveness. "I will spend the rest of my life ensuring that the darkness of my world never touches a single hair on your head. You are my anchor now, my absolute universe." They sat down to dinner, the conversation flowing with an effortless, beautiful ease that completely repaired the rift between them. Every smile from Mina was real. Every touch from Sofia was filled with a deep, healing relief. Sofia looked at her bride to be across the candlelight, her mind completely at peace, entirely convinced that her sweet, honest Mina was finally ready to walk down the aisle with her. Sofia had no idea that the timeline in her head was a completely fractured maze. She didn't know that the fearless, flirty version of Mina who had demanded a Chanel shopping spree the night before was a parasite waiting to strike. For the past week, Sofia had been acting strangely. She canceled meetings she would normally never miss. She disappeared for hours without telling Marco where she was going. She spent an unusual amount of time staring at her phone before smiling to herself. Marco finally couldn't take it anymore. "You've been smiling all week." Sofia looked up from the document in front of her. "Have I?" "You have." He folded his arms. "Whatever you're planning." "I'm guessing it involves Mina." A small smile tugged at the corner of Sofia's lips. "It does." Marco leaned forward. "Are you finally going to tell me?" Sofia closed the file and stood. "You'll know soon enough." That afternoon, a black sedan stopped outside the oldest jewelry house in the city. Sofia stepped out alone. No bodyguards, no assistants, no Marco, just her. She wanted this moment to belong only to her. Inside, an elderly jeweler welcomed her warmly. "Miss Romano, I've been expecting you." He placed a velvet box on the glass counter. "I made a few adjustments, just as you requested." Sofia slowly opened it. Inside, a delicate platinum ring caught the light. Elegant, timeless, perfect. Not the biggest ring money could buy, but the one that had reminded her of Mina the moment she'd seen the design. Simple, beautiful, honest, exactly like the woman she loved. Sofia smiled. "I'll take it." Across the street, Maya stood frozen behind the window of a bookstore. Her eyes never left the jewelry store. She watched Sofia walk out holding the small velvet box. Her stomach tightened. She didn't need to guess what was inside. She already knew. "So," she whispered to herself, "it's finally happening." Instead of leaving, she followed the black sedan. The next evening, Mina frowned as Sofia helped her out of the car. "Why are you smiling like that?" "Like what?" "Like you're hiding something." "I would never." "You are a terrible liar." Sofia laughed softly. "I know." They walked through the botanical gardens together. The same gardens where they'd spent one quiet afternoon months ago, feeding ducks and laughing over Sofia's complete inability to tell flowers apart. "You still think those roses were tulips?" "They look similar." They absolutely did not. They were both flowers. Mina shook her head, laughing. "You are impossible." "And yet," Sofia looked at her warmly, "you still chose to spend time with me. I always will." The words came so naturally that Mina didn't even think about them. She simply meant them. They reached the small stone bridge overlooking the lake. The sun was beginning to set. Golden light danced across the water. The gardens were almost empty. Exactly as Sofia had planned. She stopped walking. "Mina, I need you to let me finish speaking." Mina immediately became nervous. "You're scaring me." "I'm not trying to." "Before I met you, Mina," Sofia whispered, her voice dropping into a rich, heavy register that made the entire conservatory feel dead silent. "My life was nothing but cold logistics. It was a sequence of survival, rules, and blood. I had completely forgotten that life could be peaceful. I had forgotten what it felt like to actually want to live rather than just endure. Then one day, a stubborn university student yelled at me in the middle of the street because my driver splashed muddy water on her." Mina covered her face. "Oh no, please don't remind me." Sofia laughed. "Everyone around me was terrified." "You weren't. You looked at the most feared woman in Europe and demanded an apology." Mina smiled shyly. "You deserved it." "I did." Sofia reached for both of Mina's hands. "You've changed my life. You taught me how to laugh. You taught me how to slow down. You made every place feel like home. As long as you were there." Tears were already filling Mina's eyes. "Sofia, I don't need a perfect life. I don't need peace and quiet every day. I don't need the world. I just," her voice softened, "need you." Slowly. A tear slipped from Mina's eye, her throat tightening as she looked into the intense, vulnerable depth of Sofia's icy gaze. "You are my peace, Mina," Sofia murmured, her breath brushing against Mina's forehead. "You are the only part of this world that makes me want to be a better woman. You brought the light back into my universe, and I never want to walk in the dark again." Sofia slowly, elegantly dropped down onto one knee on the smooth stone path. Mina let out a breathless, trembling sob, covering her mouth with her hands as her heart practically pounded right out of her chest. Sofia reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small, heavy velvet box. She clicked it open. Inside, resting on a bed of dark silk, sat a flawless, custom-designed diamond ring. It didn't look like a standard corporate diamond. It was shaped like a tiny, delicate star, catching the fairy lights and sparkling with absolute brilliance. "Mina Romano," Sofia said, looking up at her with an expression of complete, unfiltered surrender. "Please, allow me to spend the rest of my life protecting you. Allow me to give you everything you deserve. Will you marry me?" Tears poured down Mina's face as she instantly nodded, her voice cracking with pure happiness. "Yes, yes, Val, 1,000,000 times yes." Sofia stood up, a massive, breathtakingly beautiful smile breaking across her face, a smile so radiant it completely transformed her cold features. She slid the heavy ring onto Mina's finger, her hands cupping Mina's waist as she pulled her flesh against her chest. Mina wrapped her arms tightly around Sofia's neck, burying her face in her shoulder as she cried tears of absolute joy. Sofia held her with a fierce, desperate protectiveness, leaning down to press a soft, lingering, incredibly deep kiss against Mina's lips under the canopy of glowing lights. It was perfect. It was the ultimate, sweetest romance. But outside, the fairy tale completely died. Standing in the freezing, bitter shadows of the winter night, right against the dark exterior glass of the conservatory, was Maya. She had followed them. She had been lurking in the cold for an hour, her bare hands pressing against the freezing glass, her breath creating heavy patches of fog on the window. Her wide, unblinking eyes watched every single second of the proposal unfold. She watched Sofia drop to her knee. She watched the star-shaped ring slide onto Mina's finger. She watched the woman she had spent months obsessing over, the trillion-dollar queen she had literally erased her own identity to hold, pour her entire soul out to her simple, poor sister. Something deep inside Maya's mind finally, completely shattered into dust. The final thread holding her sanity together snapped. A single freezing tear slid down her pale cheek, but her expression didn't twist in sadness. Her face went entirely blank, her features hardening into iron as her eyes darkened into a pitch-black abyss of pure, terrifying madness. She watched Mina laugh through her tears inside the warm, glowing palace. This is what happiness looks like. Her eyes never left the couple. You've always been lucky, Mina. You were born first. You were always everyone's favorite. You always got chosen. Her smile widened. But not this time. She took one final look at the ring sparkling on Mina's finger, then quietly turned away. As she disappeared into the evening shadows, her voice was barely louder than the wind. If I can't have my own happy ending, she smiled, a smile identical to Mina's, I'll take yours. Enjoy it while you can, sister, Maya whispered against the freezing glass, a slow, spine-chilling smirk spreading across her identical lips. Because tomorrow, that ring belongs to me. I'll never stop reminding you. The day before the wedding arrived like the quiet before a hurricane. While the city was busy preparing for the most elite, highly classified event of the year, Maya was standing in a dim, smoke-filled corner of an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the industrial district. She had traded her plain cream-colored Mina sweater for a sharp leather jacket, her face dead cold as she stared at the two burly men sitting across a cracked wooden table. Everything is set for tonight, one of the men muttered, tossing a heavy, cold piece of dark metal onto the table. It slid forward, stopping right in front of Maya. A sleek black semi-automatic pistol. Maya's fingers didn't tremble. She slowly reached out, her manicured hand gripping the cold handle, lifting the weapon to check the weight just like she had seen Sofia's guards do on elite underground forums. You're sure about the security at the venue? Maya asked, her voice dropping into a sharp, venomous tone that was completely unrecognizable from Mina's soft warmth. The man let out a rough laugh. The building's sub-level storage unit hasn't been used in 10 years. Nobody goes down there. The cameras on that floor have already been looped. You bring her in after the party, we lock the iron door from the outside, and we vanish. Simple. Good, Maya murmured, sliding the heavy weapon into the inner pocket of her jacket, a chilling, slow smirk spreading across her face. Make sure you aren't followed. If Sofia Romano catches a single whisper of this before the vows are said, you won't live long enough to spend the money I paid you. She turned on her heel and walked out into the freezing winter afternoon, her mind completely consumed by the dark blueprint she had built. By 8 o'clock that evening, the high-end private lounge in the center of the district was roaring with music, laughter, and flowing drinks. It was Mina's bachelorette party, arranged entirely by their wealthy father to celebrate his daughter marrying into the most powerful family in Europe. To the future Mrs. Romano? A group of university friends shouted, raising their glasses into the air. Mina laughed, her cheeks bright red from the attention, her eyes completely glowing as she held up her sparkling, star-shaped diamond engagement ring under the neon lights. She looked exceptionally beautiful, wearing a simple, fluid silk-white dress that hugged her frame perfectly. Thank you, guys, Mina smiled, her voice overflowing with pure, radiant happiness. I still feel like I'm dreaming. Sitting right next to her on the plush velvet booth was Maya, holding a glass of expensive champagne, playing the role of the perfect supportive maid of honor. She clinked her glass against Mina's, her smile flawless on the outside, while her inside was completely rotting with absolute madness. You deserve it, sis, Maya whispered, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. Drink up. Tonight is all about you. Maya kept sliding her hand into her purse, surreptitiously checking a small, unlabeled glass vial filled with a heavy, fast-acting sedative she had slipped past the venue's security. Every time Mina reached for her cocktail glass, Maya was there, casually distracting her, turning her head to look at a friend, while her fingers quickly tipped a few clear drops into the liquid. By midnight, the party began to wind down. Mina was leaning heavily against Maya's shoulder, her eyes blurry, a thick, unnatural drowsiness dragging at her consciousness. "Maya? I feel so dizzy," Mina muttered, her voice slurring slightly as they walked out into the freezing, empty alleyway behind the lounge. I think I drank too much." "I've got you, sweetie," Maya cooed, her arm wrapped firmly around Mina's waist, practically dragging her limp body toward a waiting, unmarked dark van parked in the shadows. "Let's get you home before the big day." The second they stepped into the dim interior of the vehicle, Mina's eyes completely rolled back, and she went entirely unconscious, her head falling back against the leather seat. Maya looked down at her identical twin's face, the soft, innocent features, the star-shaped ring catching the dim yellow light of the van's ceiling. Maya's expression instantly turned into iron. She reached down, her fingers cold and ruthless as she forcefully pried the diamond engagement ring off Mina's finger, sliding it onto her own left hand. It fit perfectly, a flawless copy. "Drive!" Maya commanded the men in the front seat. "To the sublevel." An hour later, the heavy iron door of the abandoned underground bunker groaned open, echoing loudly in the pitch-black silence. Mina's eyes flickered. Her brain felt like it was trapped in thick, heavy syrup as the sedative slowly began to wear off. The air was freezing, smelling faintly of rust, damp concrete, and old machinery. She tried to lift her hands to rub her eyes, but a sharp, metal clinking sound cut through the dark. Clink, clink, Mina gasped, her heart instantly doing a violent, terrified thud against her ribs. She looked down. Her wrists were bound tightly by heavy, rusted iron chains, anchored directly to a massive concrete pillar in the center of the narrow room. Her bare feet scraped against the rough, ice-cold floor. What? Mina stammered, her voice cracking with a sudden suffocating panic as she struggled against the metal. "Hello? Is anyone there? Help!" From the dark corner of the hallway, a slow, rhythmic click of heels began to echo against the walls. A figure stepped forward, moving right under the single, flickering yellow light bulb hanging from the ceiling. Mina's breath completely left her lungs. She froze, her eyes widening into saucers. Standing right in front of her, wearing the exact same fluid white silk dress with her hair tied back in the exact same loose ponytail, was Maya. She was holding the sleek black pistol loosely in her right hand, a slow, spine-chilling smirk spreading across her lips. "Maya?" Mina screamed, her voice echoing frantically against the concrete. "Maya, what are you doing? Why am I in chains? Lose the gun. What is wrong with you?" Maya didn't answer immediately. Instead, she marched forward, her leather jacket rustling as she grabbed Mina roughly by the collar of her white dress, dragging her forward until the heavy chains snapped tight. Maya didn't answer immediately. She simply stepped closer, her heels clicking precisely until only inches separated their identical faces. She reached up with her left hand, deliberately tilting her wrist so the star-shaped diamond ring caught the light, sparkling beautifully right in front of Mina's face. Mina stared at the ring, the reality of the horror hitting her like a physical blow. My ring. "Maya, please, what is this?" Maya let out a quiet, empty chuckle, the kind of hallowed, manic sound that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Her eyes were completely calm. Too calm. "You still don't get it, do you?" Maya whispered, her voice steady and ice-cold. "Get what?" Mina cried, tears of pure terror finally blurring her vision as she violently yanked against the heavy chains, the metal cutting into her wrists. "Unlock this door! Let me out! You are not marrying Sofia Romano tomorrow, sister," Maya repeated, her tone completely smooth, devoid of any guilt. Mina blinked, her mind fracturing under the weight of the betrayal. "What?" I said, Maya murmured, leaning in until her breath brushed against Mina's cheek. "You're not marrying her, because Sofia Romano is mine now." Mina let out a shaky, hysterical laugh, trying to convince herself this was a sick joke. "Okay, enough. Stop playing around, Maya. This isn't funny. Sofia loves me." "Why am I doing this?" Maya hissed, her face contorting with a bitter, defensive rage. "You should be asking yourself that. You were hiding me from her. You never once introduced me to her. You never made her come home to meet your own sister. But, oh, you would always come back to the penthouse and happily gist me about her, wouldn't you?" Mina winced, her eyes filling with tears as she stared at her sister's furious face. But deep inside Mina's mind, a long-buried memory flashed, the real reason why she had kept Sofia a secret. When they were just 6 years old, before the divorce, a new little girl had moved into their neighborhood. Mina had always been the social one, surrounded by a big group of friends, while Maya stood on the sidelines, feeling invisible. Maya desperately wanted this one new girl to be her friend, and her friend only. So Maya had looked that little girl in the eye and lied. She had claimed she was an only child, telling her that her twin sister Mina was dead. Mina had overheard the lie from behind the bushes, running home to their mother crying her eyes out. Maya loved her sister, but her desperate childhood jealousy had left a deep, permanent scar. Mina had never forgotten that day. She loved Maya, but she always knew her sister possessed a dangerous, toxic envy that consumed everything it touched. And when Mina finally found the love of her life, Sofia Romano, she made a silent vow to herself. She wanted this one thing entirely to herself. She wanted to protect the pure, beautiful love she shared with Sofia from being poisoned by Maya's inevitable jealousy. "You thought I didn't know?" Maya sneered, snapping Mina back to the cold, harsh present. She leaned in so close their noses almost touched, her voice dropping into a mocking, vicious whisper. "Newsflash, stupid. I've kissed her. I've made out with her by the riverbank. And I have gone on several romantic dates with her, completely pretending to be you. She doesn't know the difference. She wrapped her arms around me and told me I was her entire universe. So yeah, Mina, I can be you. I can play the role 1,000,000 times better than you ever did. And that's exactly why you have to disappear." Maya smiled, a dark, villainous glint crossing her features as she stepped back, raising the black pistol to point it directly at Mina's chest. "Maya, please?" Mina sobbed, her entire body trembling as she stared down the barrel of the weapon. "I'm your sister. We survived the divorce. We rebuilt our lives. You said what's yours is mine." "I lied." Maya's voice dropped to a terrifying whisper. She lowered the gun, her face hardening into iron as she backed away toward the heavy iron doorway. "I've spent my whole life watching you get everything without even trying, Mina. You wear thrift sweaters and a queen lays the world at your feet. You don't even care about her trillions. If you don't care about it, let me have it." "You've lost your mind," her voice cracking as she pounded her chained hands against the concrete pillar. "You need help. Sofia will know. She'll look at you and she'll see the difference." Maya stopped at the threshold of the door. She looked back over her shoulder, her slow, wicked smirk widening into a terrifying look of complete, unadulterated madness. "She won't see a thing, sister," Maya whispered, her fingers tracing the star-shaped diamond on her hand. "I've practiced your smile. I've practiced your laugh. I've even practiced the exact way you hold her collar when you kiss her. I am a perfect masterpiece." "Amaya, no, please, I love her," Mina shrieked, the tears streaming down her face as she lunged forward, the chain snapping tight, stopping her brutally. Maya didn't flinch. She grabbed the edge of the heavy iron door and delivered the line that changed the trajectory of the fairy tale forever. "Tomorrow, the world will bury Mina." Maya smiled, her voice a chilling, hollow sound against the concrete. "And I'll become her forever." Slam! The deafening bang of the heavy iron door echoed through the entire sub-level bunker, plunging the room into an absolute pitch-black silence. "Maya, open the door! Maya!" Mina screamed into the darkness, her frantic sobs filling the empty cell as the faint sound of clicking heels grew fainter and fainter, walking away into the night, leaving her completely buried alive. The night before the wedding, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay on her back staring at the ceiling. The engagement ring caught the moonlight every time she lifted her hand. She smiled. Tomorrow, in less than 24 hours, she would become Sofia Romano's wife. The thought still didn't feel real. She reached for Mina's phone. A message from Sofia waited. "Try to sleep. Tomorrow will be a long day. I love you." Maya smiled as she typed back. "I love you more. See you tomorrow." She placed the phone on the bedside table. Within minutes, sleep finally claimed her. Maya stood in the center of the bridal suite, smoothing down the fabric of the black wedding dress. It was a perfect copy of the liquid silk gown Sofia had sent to Mina for their reconciliation dinner. She turned to face the mirror. Her bare skin was completely clean, her hair pulled back into Mina's signature loose ponytail. Over her face, she arranged the final piece, a heavy black lace veil attached to a rose-patterned face mask. The real Mina had insisted on using it, claiming it was an old maternal family culture to stay completely veiled until the vows were said. Sofia had agreed without a single question. Maya looked at her reflection, a cold, victorious smirk spreading across her lips as she adjusted the star-shaped diamond ring on her left hand. "Perfect," she whispered. 10 minutes later, she stepped into the back of the luxury bridal limousine. Sitting across from her were her mother and father, both dressed in their finest attire, looking anxious but incredibly proud. Her father looked around the empty plush leather seats, frowning. "Wait, Mina, where's Maya? She's your maid of honor. Why isn't she in the limousine with us?" Maya's stomach did a violent twist, but she forced her shoulders to drop, putting on Mina's soft, hesitant voice through the fabric of the rose mask. "Oh, Dad," she got. Incredibly nauseous right before we left. She excused herself to get some fresh air and medicine. She promised she would take a separate car and meet us at the venue very soon. To make it flawless, Maya casually pulled out her phone. She had already scheduled a delayed text message using Maya's number to hit their father's phone at that exact moment. BZZ. Their father pulled out his device, reading the screen. "Maya, hey Dad, sorry I missed the limo. My stomach is in knots. I'm taking a cab now. I'll be at the wedding soon. Don't wait for me." Their father sighed, shaking his head. Classic Maya, always causing a dramatic scene on the most important days. Maya smiled beneath her dark veil, her eyes flashing with a wicked brilliance. Nobody suspected a thing. The ceremony was not a traditional white wedding. It was a private, heavily fortified Mafia ritual, hosted at Sofia's secluded Gothic estate on the cliffs. The grand courtyard was adorned with thousands of deep black roses. Guests in sharp suits from the most powerful crime families in Europe sat in dead silence, surrounded by hundreds of armed bodyguards standing at absolute attention. The heavy stone doors opened. The Romano estate had never looked more beautiful. Black roses lined the stone pathway leading toward the private chapel. Thousands of candles flickered against polished marble. Every guest wore black. Not because it was a funeral, because this was how the Romano family celebrated marriage. Elegant, powerful, unforgettable. Outside, more than 100 armed guards stood watch. Inside, representatives from criminal syndicates across Europe, Asia, South America, and the Middle East filled the chapel. Some were feared, some were respected. All of them had come for one reason: to witness the wedding of Sofia Romano. No one dared speak above a whisper. Marco adjusted his tie nervously. He leaned toward another executive. "I've seen Madame negotiate with presidents. I've seen her walk into gunfire. I've seen her dismantle entire organizations." The man beside him nodded. "So?" Marco smiled. "I've never seen her nervous." At the end of the aisle, Sofia stood in an elegant black suit tailored perfectly to her frame. Her expression remained calm, but her fingers betrayed her. She adjusted her cufflinks twice, then her watch, then the cufflinks again. Marco chuckled. "You've checked those 3 times." "I know. They're straight. I know. You need to breathe." Sofia looked at him. "I'm breathing. Barely." For the first time in years, the feared Mafia queen looked human. The chapel doors slowly opened. Everyone turned. A single figure stepped inside. White skin, dark hair, the elegant black wedding dress, the engagement ring sparkling beneath the candlelight. Mina, or so everyone believed. Maya began walking toward the altar. Every step was measured. Every smile had been practiced. Every movement copied. She looked exactly like Mina. Exactly. Across the city, beneath layers of concrete, Mina screamed until her throat became raw. The ropes cut into her wrists. She kicked the chair over. It crashed onto the cold floor. "Maya!" Her voice echoed through the underground room. No answer. Tears streamed down her face. "Sofia." Maya walked down the aisle, her heart pounding with a wild, greedy rush of adrenaline. She looked ahead. Standing at the altar, looking like an absolute goddess in a structured black velvet tuxedo, was Sofia Romano. The coldness in Sofia's eyes completely melted the second she saw the veiled figure walking toward her. Maya stepped onto the altar, taking Sofia's long, warm hands in her own. The ceremony began, the old Latin vows echoing through the silent courtyard. Sofia's gaze was entirely locked onto the lace veil, her heart overflowing with a deep, protective adoration for the woman she believed had healed her soul. It was time for the final vow. Sofia stepped closer, the distance between them completely vanishing. She raised her elegant hands, leaning down to press a soft, lingering kiss against the side of her bride's neck, a quiet tradition they had shared since their reconciliation. But the moment Sofia's lips brushed the skin behind the left ear, her eyes fell upon the smooth, bare flesh. By complete mistake, without an ounce of suspicion, Sofia's brilliant Mafia mind had a sudden, vivid flashback to their private riverfront dinner. During that night, while they were kissing deeply under the candlelight, Sofia's fingers had lightly brushed behind Mina's left ear. Her thumb had caught on a tiny, single dark mole. Sofia had pulled back slightly, smiling softly as she traced it. "Have you always had this little mark here, my girl?" Mina had blushed, looking into her eyes with total honesty. "Yes, Val. Ever since I was a little girl. My mom says it's my lucky charm." Sofia's lips stopped against Maya's skin. There was no mole. The skin behind the left ear was completely, flawlessly blank. In a fraction of a second, a terrifying rush of memories crashed through Sofia's brain like a freight train. The different kisses, the sudden craving for expensive Chanel handbags, the strange, fragmented conversations where she forgot the Italian restaurant, the drastic, wild personality shifts. It wasn't stress. It wasn't a psychological split. Everything suddenly, perfectly connected. Sofia's eyes went completely dead, darkening into a lethal, pitch-black abyss of pure fury. Her grip on Maya's hands turned into an absolute vice. Before Maya could even process what was happening, Sofia forcefully slammed her down against the altar, her powerful hand gripping Maya's throat, pinning her body flat against the stone table. Gasp! The entire courtyard erupted into chaos. Within a split second, a dozen of Sofia's highest-ranking bodyguards lunged forward, drawing their heavy weapons and pointing them directly at the bride. "Boss, what are you doing?" Leon screamed, his hands shaking on his gun. Sofia didn't look at her men. Her breathing was uneven. her face contorted with a terrifying, bloodthirsty rage that made the crime bosses in the audience freeze in their seats. She reached up with her free hand, violently ripping the rose mask and lace veil off her bride's face. The fabric tore away, revealing the identical face of Mina Romano. Maya's eyes were wide with a frantic, suffocating panic as she stared up into Sofia's lethal gaze. She tried to force Mina's soft, innocent voice through her tightened throat. Vival, what are you doing? It's me. It's your Mina, please. But because she was so incredibly terrified, the nervous strain broke her performance. The fake, gentle tone of Mina completely slipped, and she spoke in Maya's sharp, natural pitch. Sofia's jaw clenched so hard a bone literally clicked. She leaned down until her lips brushed Maya's ear, her voice a chilling, hollow whisper that cut like a razor. You taste different. Your heartbeat is too fast, and you don't have the lucky charm my woman has. Who the hell are you, and why do you look like my wife? Before Maya could answer, her mother and father rushed forward from the front row, completely horrified. Mina, Sofia, stop, you're going to kill her. Her father screamed, trying to pull Sofia's iron grip off her throat. What is wrong with you? That is our daughter, Mina. Our other daughter, Maya, is sick in a cab. Sofia slowly turned her head, her icy eyes pinning the father to the spot. Who is Maya? The courtyard went dead silent. The mother looked at Sofia, then down at the terrified girl pinned to the altar. She gasped, her hands flying to her mouth as she noticed the smooth skin behind the girl's left ear. The parents had always recognized the two identical girls by that single mark. Oh my God! The mother whispered, her voice trembling with horror. This isn't Mina. This is Maya. Maya, what did you do? Where is your sister? Silence. No one moved. No one breathed. The candles continued flickering inside the chapel. The violinists kept playing for several seconds before slowly lowering their bows, confused by the sudden tension. Sofia's hand remained firmly beneath Maya's chin. Her eyes never left hers. Her voice was almost gentle. Is my Mina? Maya forced herself to smile. Sofia, I don't know what you're talking about. You must be nervous. She reached towards Sofia's face. Sofia caught her wrist before she could touch her. Her grip tightened. Not enough to break it, just enough to make Maya understand. The woman standing before her was no longer a bride. She was the Mafia queen. Marco immediately recognized the look in Sofia's eyes. He had only seen it twice before. Both times, people died. He slowly took one step backward, then calmly spoke into the communication device hidden beneath his sleeve. Lock the estate. Every guard straightened instantly. Heavy steel gates slammed shut around the property. The sound echoed across the estate. One by one, every exit locked. The guests looked around uneasily. No one dared ask questions. Maya laughed nervously. What is this, Sofia? Everyone is watching. Sofia ignored her. She looked toward Marco. Without raising her voice, she gave one command. No one leaves. Marco nodded once. Yes, madam. Within seconds, more than 100 armed guards surrounded the chapel. The crime bosses exchanged uneasy glances. If Sofia Romano had stopped her wedding, something catastrophic had happened. Sofia looked back at Maya. I'll ask you once. Her voice was completely calm. Where is Mina? Maya swallowed. I am Mina. The slap echoed through the chapel, not out of rage, out of certainty. Maya stumbled sideways, her cheek burning. The guests gasped. Sofia had never struck someone she loved, because this wasn't the woman she loved. Maya slowly looked back at her. You've made a mistake. No, you have. Sofia stepped closer. The woman I love blushes when I kiss the left side of her neck. You didn't. Silence. She always squeezes my hand twice before saying goodbye. You didn't. Another step. When she's nervous. Another step. When she's nervous. Maya's confidence began cracking. Sofia continued. The psychiatrist, the restaurants are restaurants. The conversations that never happened. The woman who held me forever. I ignored every warning because I believed the woman I loved was exhausted. She leaned closer. But I was wrong. I wasn't speaking to one woman. I was speaking to two. Maya's breathing became uneven. Still, she smiled. You have no proof, Sofia smiled back. It wasn't a warm smile. It was terrifying. I don't need proof. I need Mina. She turned toward Marco. Take her. Within seconds, 4 guards grabbed Maya's arms. She struggled immediately. Let me go. I'm your bride. She doesn't love you like I do. The entire chapel fell silent. Those words confirmed everything. Sofia closed her eyes. Just once. When she opened them, every trace of warmth had disappeared. Interrogate her. Marco nodded. Immediately, the interrogation room beneath the estate was cold. Concrete walls, 1 chair, 1 table, nothing else. Maya sat handcuffed. Across from her, Sofia. Sofia asked the same question. Where is Mina? Maya smiled. I don't know. Finally, Sofia stood. She walked toward the door. Without looking back, she said quietly, You've mistaken my patience for weakness, she paused. If Mina dies, I promise you, prison will become the kindest thing that ever happens to you. Maya sat up, coughing and wheezing as Sofia finally released her throat. But the bodyguards immediately pinned her arms behind her back, forcing her to her knees on the hard stone floor. Maya looked up at Sofia, her face twisting into a stubborn, manic laugh as her sanity completely evaporated. She's gone, Sofia. You loved me. You kissed me by the river. You bought me those Chanel bags. You couldn't even tell the difference because I am a perfect copy. Sofia stepped into her space, her face completely expressionless, her aura dripping with pure death. She reached into her jacket, pulled out the sleek silver pistol, and pressed the cold barrel directly against Maya's forehead. Sofia wanted to pull the trigger. She wanted to paint the black roses with her blood. But staring down at that face, she was looking at the exact face of the woman she worshipped. She couldn't do it. Her hand trembled with an agonizing, furious restraint. Where is she? Sofia whispered, the silence around them so heavy nobody dared to breathe. If you don't tell me in 3 seconds, I will make sure you spend the rest of your life begging for death. Maya looked into Sofia's dead eyes and realized she had completely lost. Her stubbornness finally cracked into a pathetic, weeping sob. The sub-level storage unit in the old bunker downstairs. She's tied up. She's probably dead by now from the cold. Minutes later, Marco rushed back into the control room. Madam, what? We found something. He placed several photographs on the table. One image showed an abandoned warehouse purchased 6 months earlier through a shell company. The purchaser's signature matched Maya's handwriting. Sofia's eyes hardened. Prepare the convoy. She didn't wait for her limousine convoy. Sofia sprinted toward the estate's private garage, threw her leg over a massive midnight black sports power bike, and roared out of the gates, the engine screaming like a demon as she tore through the freezing winter streets. Rain poured from the night sky. Dozens of black SUVs raced through the empty streets. Headlights cut through the darkness. Helicopters circled overhead. Inside the lead vehicle, the warehouse doors exploded inward. Armed guards flooded the building. 2 of Maya's hired thugs were standing by the corridor, completely startled by the sudden crash. Before they could even raise their weapons, Sofia lunged forward with a terrifying, animalistic fury. She slammed her gun handle into the first man's jaw, cracking it instantly, and kicked the second man squarely in the chest, sending him flying through a wooden crate. Her bodyguards finally caught up, flooding the hallway with drawn weapons. Secure them, Sofia commanded, her breathing ragged before turning toward the heavy iron door of the dungeon. Second floor clear, nothing. Sofia ignored them, she listened. Somewhere, very faintly, she heard it, a weak cough. She ran, down a narrow corridor, toward a heavy steel door, locked. She kicked it once, nothing. Twice, the hinges cracked. A third kick, the door burst open. The room was freezing. A single light flickered overhead. In the center, a chair. Ropes, chains. And Mina, her wrists were bruised raw. Her lips were dry. She looked impossibly pale. For one terrifying second, she didn't move. Sofia's heart stopped. Mina, no response. She dropped to her knees. Her hands shook violently as she cut through the ropes. Mina, please. Very slowly. Mina's eyes fluttered open. Her voice barely existed. Sofia? The moment she recognized her, she smiled weakly. You came. Those 2 words shattered something inside Sofia. She pulled Mina into her arms, holding her as though letting go would mean losing her forever. I'm here. Her voice broke. I'm here. I'm so sorry. Mina rested her head against Sofia's shoulder. I knew. You'd find me. Sofia closed her eyes. A tear rolled silently down her cheek, then another. Marco froze in the doorway. Every guard behind him lowered their weapons. None of them had ever seen Sofia Romano cry. Not when she lost soldiers, not after assassination attempts, not after burying family. Never. Yet here she was, holding the woman she loved, crying without trying to hide it. Sofia pulled off her velvet tuxedo jacket, wrapping it tightly around Mina's shivering shoulders, lifting her up into her arms as if she weighed nothing. She held her close, her face buried in the crook of Mina's neck, her thumb brushing against the tiny single mole behind her left ear. Why did you hide her from me? Sofia whispered through her tears, her voice laced with a raw, agonizing ache as she carried her out into the hallway. Why didn't you ever tell me you had a twin, Mina? Why did you keep this from me? Mina weakly wrapped her bleeding hands around Sofia's neck, resting her pale forehead against Sofia's cheek, her voice a fragile, soft thread. Because I knew how jealous she was, Val. And you were the only beautiful thing in my life that I wanted to keep pure. I wanted you all to myself. Sofia squeezed her tighter, her heart shattering into a million pieces at the profound depth of Mina's love. I'm sorry, I should have seen it sooner. I should have known your touch. Sofia gently lifted Mina into her arms, as if she weighed nothing. The fallout of a betrayal that deep doesn't disappear just because the truth comes to light. Following the chaotic night at the fortress, the grand Mafia wedding was officially called off, and Sofia's estate went into a complete, heavily guarded lockdown. Maya wasn't thrown into a cold dungeon, nor was she executed. Instead, out of absolute respect for the woman she worshipped, Sofia had her personal security team quietly release Maya back into the custody of her mother and father. "Take her," Sofia had coldly commanded her head of security, her voice like cracking ice as she watched her guards escort a weeping, heavily sedated Maya out of the mansion foyer. "Keep her out of my sight. If she ever steps within a mile of my woman again, not even her face will save her." Their parents didn't try to hide Maya's actions or sweep them under a plush rug. They looked at their broken, fractured daughter and realized she had completely lost her grip on reality. That very week, they checked Maya into an elite, highly private psychiatric ward specializing in severe identity dissociation and obsessive trauma. But Maya wasn't the only one who needed healing. Mina's physical wounds from the rusted chains healed within a couple of weeks, but the psychological scars left by her own identical twin were running dangerously deep. She couldn't sleep in the dark. Every time a heavy door clicked shut in the penthouse, she would violently flinch, her breathing turning ragged as her mind flashed back to the freezing, suffocating blackness of the sub-level bunker. Sofia saw the quiet terror lingering in Mina's transparent eyes. She knew her wealth couldn't buy away trauma, and her guns couldn't fight a monster hiding inside Mina's memories. So, Sofia did what a truly loving woman does. She stepped back from her billion-dollar logistics meetings, moved Mina into a quiet, sun-drenched estate on the coast, and personally arranged for the city's top trauma therapist to visit her 3 times a week. "I am right here, my girl," Sofia would whisper every single night, wrapping her long, warm arms tightly around Mina's shivering frame, pulling her flesh against her chest until the nightmares melted away. "I'm not going anywhere. Take all the time you need." It took a full year of painful, slow, and intensive therapy, but little by little, Mina got better. The radiant, effortless peace that Sofia had fallen in love with slowly returned to her eyes. She started picking up her secondhand camera again, capturing the sunrise over the ocean, her laughter finally ringing clear through the halls of their home. And once Mina was truly whole, they finally had their real wedding. Instead, the wedding was small, quiet, and deeply private, hosted on a sun-drenched grassy hill overlooking the glittering river. The only people present were their mother, their father, and the few close university friends who truly mattered. Mina stood by the makeshift wooden altar, her heart swelling with a peace she hadn't felt in a long time. She looked incredibly breathtaking, wearing a simple, fluid white sundress that caught the warm summer breeze. Her skin had completely regained its radiant, healthy glow, and her hair fell softly over her shoulders, exposing the tiny single mole behind her left ear. A gentle step echoed on the grass. Mina looked up, her breath hitching. Walking down the small path toward her was Sofia. She had traded her stiff, intimidating Mafia suits for a relaxed, beautifully tailored cream linen blazer and white trousers. Her hair rested neatly over her shoulder, and the moment her icy eyes locked onto Mina, they completely dissolved into that raw, melting adoration that was meant only for her. Mina chose not to forget what happened. She wouldn't pretend the horror in the bunker never existed. But looking at Sofia's warm, beautiful face under the summer sun, Mina made a conscious choice to let go of the hatred. Forgiveness didn't erase the consequences. Maya was still paying for her crimes, but it completely freed Mina from living her life in bitterness. Mina wiped her eyes, looking up into Sofia's intense, loving gaze, her radiant smile breaking through her tears. "I'm ready, Val." Sofia smiled back, a massive, genuine, breathtaking smile that completely illuminated her features. She reached into her pocket, pulling out the velvet box, and slid the star-shaped diamond engagement ring back onto Mina's finger. Sofia looked down at their joined hands, then up into Mina's eyes, a playful, soft glint suddenly crossing her icy features. "Wait," Sofia whispered, her voice dropping into a low, teasing velvet register that made Mina's heart do a violent flutter. "Before the priest speaks, how do I know it's really you this time? How do I know I'm marrying my right bride?" Mina let out a breathless, beautiful laugh, her eyes crinkling at the corners with that pure, transparent warmth no imposter could ever clone. She stepped closer, completely closing the distance between them, confidently hooking a bold finger under Sofia's linen collar. She pulled the trillion-dollar Mafia queen down until their lips were barely an inch apart, her voice dropping into a flirty, deeply romantic whisper. "Because, Val, I'm the only woman in this entire country who would dare to tell the most feared Mafia queen in Europe that she's being incredibly dramatic." Sofia let out a soft, emotional laugh, her powerful arms wrapping fiercely around Mina's waist, pulling her flush against her chest. "I'd know you anywhere, my universe," Sofia murmured against her skin. She leaned down, her lips pressing against Mina's in an intense, deeply passionate, and soul-stirring kiss that sealed their vows forever under the clear blue sky. The applause of their family echoed across the river, but for Sofia and Mina, The world was completely silent. This time there were no lies, no shadows, and no wrong twins. Sofia was finally, completely marrying the right woman. 2 years later, the summer breeze was blowing softly through the open windows of the master bedroom. Mina was sitting at the edge of the bed, a newly arrived envelope resting in her lap. The return address was from the very same psychiatric facility, stamped with a final official medical discharge notice. Mina unfolded the neat white paper. The handwriting was no longer a frantic practice clone of her own. It was a completely different script, freer, lighter, and distinctly Maya's. Mina, the letter read. 2 years ago, I thought my life was over when the heavy iron doors of this ward closed behind me. But sitting in these quiet rooms, forced to look at my own reflection without your hoodie, without your perfume, and without your name, I finally woke up from the nightmare. I am so deeply, profoundly sorry, sis. I don't expect you to forget the dark room or the chains, but I needed you to know that the therapy worked. I'm better now. The doctors have officially cleared me, and by the time you read this, I will be boarding a flight out of the country. I'm traveling far away to find out who Maya actually is, without comparing myself to you. I want to build my own identity from scratch. Attached to the back of the page was a smaller, separate slip of paper addressed to the Mafia queen. Miss Sofia, Maya had written in steady letters. Thank you for not pulling the trigger that day at the altar. Thank you for showing me a mercy I didn't deserve. You are a terrifying ruler, but you are an even greater protector. Take care of my sister. She was always the better half of us. A soft, peaceful tear slipped from Mina's eye, landing on the paper. She didn't feel fear anymore. She didn't feel anger. For the first time in her entire life, she felt like her sister was finally on the path to being saved. Mina? A low, smooth velvet voice cut through her thoughts. Mina looked up. Sofia was leaning against the mahogany doorframe, wearing a relaxed, unbuttoned white silk shirt that exposed the sharp, elegant lines of her collarbone. Her dark hair fell perfectly over one shoulder, and those icy eyes were glowing with a playful, deeply affectionate warmth. What are you reading so intently, my universe? Sofia murmured, walking across the room with those long, effortless strides. A letter from Maya, Mina smiled softly, handing the pages over. Sofia skimmed the text rapidly, her brilliant Mafia mind calculating the tone before her shoulders completely relaxed. She tossed the paper onto the nightstand, sliding onto the mattress right next to Mina. She is traveling, Sofia noted, her voice dropping into a deeper, incredibly romantic register as she reached out, her warm fingers gently cupping Mina's cheek, her thumb lightly caressing the tiny mole behind her left ear. That is good. It means we finally have the entire world to ourselves. Mina let out a breathless, beautiful chuckle, her eyes crinkling at the corners as she leaned into Sofia's touch. You're always so focused on having me all to yourself, Val. Always, Sofia whispered against her lips. Before Mina could even reply, Sofia completely lost her usual cold restraint. She wrapped her powerful arms tightly around Mina's waist, pulling her flat onto the plush pillows, her body hovering over Mina's as she captured her mouth in an intense, deeply passionate kiss. The bedroom was filled with the sound of quiet, happy laughter as they started playing around on the bed, rolling over the silk sheets, completely lost in each other's warmth. Sofia kissed her down her jawline, her lips pressing fiercely against the side of Mina's neck, making Mina let out a soft, content sigh. Mina hooked a bold, flirty finger under Sofia's silk collar, pulling the trillion-dollar queen down for another heavy, breathless makeout session. They were laughing, making out, and completely enjoying the beautiful, quiet life they had fought so hard to protect. The trauma was gone. The shadows had completely cleared. The fairy tale was finally perfectly real. And that's a wrap on today's story. I hope it got you. I hope you laughed. I hope you felt something, because that's exactly why we're here. If you have a favorite moment, drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you're new to YuriTales, welcome. You found your people. We drop brand new original GL stories every week. So hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you never miss a story. Before you go, I have something special to share. Channel memberships are now open. If you're enjoying these stories and want even more content, consider joining the channel. Members get early access to new videos, exclusive perks, custom stickers and badges, and special members-only content you won't find anywhere else. Your support helps me create more stories and bring even bigger projects to life. So if you'd like to support the channel and unlock some awesome extras, click the join button and become part of our members family today. Thank you so much for watching. It genuinely means everything. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, the best love stories are always the complicated ones. See you soon.